Hi there. Hope you have a fantastic day today. This lesson, I will teach you differential equations. Of course, there is a PDF file versions on the description below for you to download so you can work with me. Otherwise, let's go straight into it. First one, to solve these differential equations. So let me just separate x with the x and then y with the y's first. So I just multiply dx on both sides. So that becomes dy is xy dx. Then I divide by y on both sides. So this means like this. Okay, I divide by y. That cancel out. So y over dy is exactly the same as 1 over y dy. So 1 over y dy. And that is x dx. So there you go. So now I integrate both sides. So I integrate both sides. So now integrate 1 over y will give me ln of y because it is f dash x over f of x. Because differentiate y give me 1. So if we integrate this will give us this. Okay, absolute value of f of x. And we add a c. So keep that in mind. So that become ln absolute value of y because we cannot take log of a negative number. Keep that in mind. And integrate x will give me x squared over 2. So x squared over 2. And we need to add a constant c after the integrations. Now I need to solve for c. So the condition is when x is 2, y is 1. So 2, 1. So this means that ln of 1, because absolute value of 1 is 1, is equal to 2 squared is 4 over 2 add a c. So ln of 1 is 0. So this one here becomes 0. And 4 over 2 is 2. So 0 is 2 plus c. So therefore, c is negative 2 because I moved the 2 on this side. So now, ln of y is a half of x squared minus 2. Now we need to solve for y. So to unlock this, don't forget ln of a is same as log by e of a. And we unlock it if we have log of a, y is x. To unlock this, so that becomes y is a power of x. So this means that ln of y, so become y is e to the a half of x squared minus 2. So there you go. Part B. So let me just multiply dx on both sides. So this will give me dy is x squared y times dx. So now I divide by y on both sides because I want to separate y with dy and x with dx. So if I divide this by y and I divide this by y, that cancel out. So this is exactly the same as 1 over y dy is x squared dx. So now I just integrate both sides. So I integrate 1 over y is ln y. So that is ln y. But of course, we have to have the absolute value. So that becomes 1/3 of x power 3. We add a constant c. Now we need to solve for c. So when x is 0, y is 3. So we go ln of 3 because absolute value of 3 is still give me 3. And 1/3 of 0 give me 0. So 0 plus c. because x is 0, so 0 power of 3 is 0, and 0 times a third is 0. So therefore, C is ln of 3. So this means that ln of y is a third of x power 3. We need to add ln 3, that is C. To unlock this, so this becomes like this. Y is e to the a third of x power 3 plus ln 3. But do not forget, I power of m plus n is I power of m times I power of n. So therefore, y is the same as this. 1/3 of x power of 3 times e to the ln of 3. But then e to ln of 3, that will give me 3. So keep that in mind. So this is 3. So therefore, y is 3 e to the a third x to the power of 3. So there you go. That's your answer. Part C. So let me just multiply the x on both sides. So that will give me dy is 2x x squared plus 1 power of 3 y power of 2 dx. Then I divide by y squared on both sides because I need to separate dy with y and dx with x. So if I divide this by y squared, and I need to divide this by y squared, and this cancel out. So don't forget, dy over y squared, I can bring the y squared up, become negative index. So that is exactly the same as y power of negative 2 dy. So y power of negative 2 dy is 2x x squared plus 1 power of 3 dx. So now I just integrate both sides. So I integrate this side, I integrate this as well. So we integrate y power of negative 2. So that means negative 2 plus 1 give me negative 1. So that is y power of negative 1 we divided by negative 1. That will give me, so to integrate on the right hand side, of course, I can use substitutions. So let u is x squared plus 1. Okay, this is u. And we differentiate u, du will give me 2x dx. So therefore, this one here will give me du. And x squared plus 1 is u. So that means we integrate u power of 3 du, if you wish. So now, so the y power of negative 1, I can bring that down. So this is become 1 over y is same as, I add 1 to 3. So u power 4 divided by 4. Of course, we need to add a constant c after the integrations. But we know that u is x squared plus 1. So we just put that down. So negative 1 over y is x squared plus 1 is u. So x squared plus 1 power 4 over 4. We add a c. So now we just need to find c. And the condition is when x is 0, y equal negative 4. So when x is 0, y is negative 4. So that means negative 1 over negative 4 is, so x is 0. So 0 squared is 0 plus 1. So 0 plus 1 is 1. And 1 power 4 is 1. So I can just write this down like that. So plus c. Now, because this negative and negative become positive. So a quarter. So that means this is a quarter. So I move this on the side, become minus a quarter. So that gives me c. So therefore, c is 0. So now we have this. Let me copy that down first. So negative 1 over y is x squared plus 1 power 4 over 4 at c because c is 0. So that's it. So now we just times negative on both sides first. So that becomes 1 over y is negative x squared plus 1 power 4 over 4. So now I flip on the left hand side. So that becomes y. And flip the right hand side because we need to do the same thing on the left hand side. So now that becomes minus 4 over x squared plus 1 power 4. So there you go. Part D. Again, we just need to times dx on both sides first. So dy is x tan of y dx. And I divide by tan of y on both sides. So that means we just divide by tan of y. We divide this by tan of y. So that cancel out. So that means dy over tan of y is exactly the same as 1 over tan of y times dy. So that is 1 over tan of y dy is x dx. And do not forget, we know that tan of y is sine of y over cos of y. But then 1 over tan of y, because we'll flip the left hand side, we'll do the same thing on the right hand side. This is exactly the same as cos of y over sine of y. So now this is the same as cos of y over sine of y. dy is x dx. So there you go. So now I integrate both sides. So integrate on the left, we do same thing on the right hand side. Please take note, if we integrate f dash x over f of x dx, of course. So that give me ln f of x at a constant. So now we know that we differentiate sine, give us cos. So the result is ln absolute value of sine of y. So that becomes ln absolute value sine of y functions. That becomes x squared, because integrate x, give me x squared divided by 2. And after the integrations, so we need to add a constant c. So now we just find the value of c. So when x is 0, y is pi over 2. So therefore, let me write this down. 0 pi over 2. So that means ln of sine pi over 2 is x squared. So 0 squared is 0 and divided by 2 is 0. So at c. And we know that sine of pi over 2 is 1. So that is ln of 1 is c. And we know that ln of 1 is 0. So therefore, c is 0. So this means that ln of sine y is a half of x squared, if you like, or x squared over 2. So now we unlock both sides. So this means that sine of y is e to the a half of x squared. Then we just inverse sine of this. So that means y is sine inverse of e a half of x squared. And please take note on this. We know that inverse sine, the value cannot be greater or less than negative 1. So in another word, by looking at this situation here, is this value here, e to the a half of x squared must be 1 or negative 1. And we know that e to the power half of x squared always greater than 1, except x equal to 0. So therefore, the domain for x in this case here is x is equal to 0. Okay, only exists. Okay, keep that in mind. Please pause the video and try this one yourself. Hi there, I'm back. How did you go? Let me just go through them with you. Before I do that, please do not forget to give me a thumb up and subscribe if you haven't done so you can help me to grow my channel. So let's get into it. So first of all, let me just multiply the x on both sides first. So this becomes dy is x y power 3 dx. And I divide by y power 3 on both sides. So that will give me 1 over y power 3 dy is x dx. So we bring the y power 3 up. So it becomes y power negative 3 dy is x dx. So now I integrate both sides. So if I integrate this, I integrate this. So that becomes y power minus 2 because negative 3 at 1 become minus 2 or negative 2. Then we divide by negative 2. And that will give me integrate x, give me x squared over 2. We add a constant c after the integrations. Now I can times negative 2 on both sides. So that becomes y power negative 2 is negative x squared minus 2c. Then I convert y power negative 2 to positive index first. So that becomes 1 over y squared is negative x squared minus 2c. Now let's solve for c. So we know that when x is 1, y is 1. So let me just write this down here. So x is 1, y is 1. So there you go. So now y squared, that means 1 squared is 1. So 1 over 1 is exactly the same as negative x squared. So 1 squared is 1 minus 2c. And then this become 1. And I move negative 1 on this side. So 1 plus 1 give me 2. So this means that 2 is negative 2c. And I divide by negative 2 on both sides. So therefore, c is negative 1. So now put it back to this equation here. That's functions if you wish. 1 over y squared is negative x squared. Now negative 2 times negative 1 give me plus 2. So there you go. So let me rewrite this. Make it positive in the front. So 1 over y squared is the same as 2 minus x squared. Now 2 minus x squared is exactly the same as 2 minus x squared all over 1. So now what I do, I flip the left hand side and I do the same thing on the right hand side. So 1 over y squared becomes y squared. So y squared, and we do the same thing on the right hand side. So that becomes 1 over 2 minus x squared. Then I take square root on both sides. So that means y is equal to. So every time we take a square root, we need to have a plus or a minus. And we square root of 1, give me 1. And square root the bottom, that give me 2 minus x squared, square root. Keep that in mind. So now, if you think about it, okay, so when y equal to 1, x is 1. In another word, when x is positive, y is positive. So therefore, we only take the positive answer. So this means that y is 1 over 2 minus x squared and square root. So there you go. Part B. So let me just cross multiply. So y dy and sine x dx. So y dy is sine x dx. So now I integrate both sides. Integrate this integrate this. So integrate y, give me y squared over 2. Integrate sine, give me negative cos of x. And we add a constant. So there you go. So when x is 0, y equal 1. So we just solve for c. So y equal 1. So 1 squared is 1. So that means 1 over 2. And negative cos of 0. And we add a constant c. And don't forget, cos of 0 is equal to 1. So the half is equal to negative 1 plus c. Now, we move the negative 1 on that side, becomes plus. 1 plus a half is 1.5. That means 3 over 2. It's more simpler, that's all. So 3 over 2 is c. So therefore, we put back into this function here. So this will give me y squared over 2 is negative cos of x plus 3 over 2. So if I times 2 on both sides, because I want to get rid of the fractions, so this will give me y squared is negative 2 cos of x plus 3. Let me just write the positive number in front. So that is the same as y squared is 3 minus 2 cos x. And we take square root on both sides. So y is, of course, we have a positive and a negative answer. 3 minus 2 cos x. And we square root of this. Then we only need to pick one answer because the condition is this. When y equals 0, x is 1. That is positive. So therefore, we only pick the positive answer. So you go, therefore, y is 3 minus 2 cos of x and square root of this. So there you go. Last one. So let me just times dx on both sides. So that means dy is e to the x times e to the y dx. And I divided by e to the y on both sides. So that will give me like this. dy over e to the y will give me e to the x dx. Then I can bring e to the y up, so become negative. So that becomes like this. Okay, dy is e to the x dx. So now I integrate both sides. So don't forget, if we have e to the f of x, and if we want to integrate this, and don't forget f of x is linear functions, right? So keep that in mind. If something like that, okay? So we integrate this, will give us 1 over f dash x e to the f of x at a constant. So we differentiate negative y, give me negative 1. So we just divide by negative 1. So that is e to the negative y divided by negative 1. And same rule apply. We differentiate this, give me 1. So e to the x divided by 1. And don't forget, we need to add a constant at the end. And then that becomes negative e to the negative y is e to the x at c. And we need to solve for c. So look at this. When x is 0, y is 0. So 0, 0. So this means that negative e to the negative y, that means 0. And is equal to e to the 0 plus c. And don't forget, e to the 0 is 1. So this means that negative 1 is 1 plus c. And we move the 1 on this side, becomes negative 1 minus 1. So that will give me minus 2 or negative 2. So that gives me c. I move this on that side. Okay, so keep that in mind. So now we just substitute back into these equations. So that will give me negative e to the negative y is e to the x minus 2. So now I just times negative on both sides. So that becomes positive. So y is negative e to the x, we add 2. So now I can rewrite this. So e to the negative y is 2 minus e to the x. So let me just take log on both sides. So that becomes ln e to the negative y is ln absolute value 2 minus e to the x. So now remember ln e to the minus y is exactly the same as y. Okay, so that becomes negative y. So that becomes ln 2 minus e to the x absolute value, and I times negative 1 on both sides. So therefore y is negative ln 2 minus e to the x. So there you go, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.